Hello, this is Anthony. Let's walk and talk. So today we're going to talk about accountability. Now we have discussed this a little bit on the channel before, but I recognize that in discussing it, there needs to be a little bit deeper discussion around it, meaning around what does accountability actually mean and why is it important? So what is accountability? Well, essentially accountability is accepting responsibility for actions, accepting your responsibility for your actions. You see, accountability is understanding that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, and accepting that because that is truth, that you carried an action within an interaction that created a reaction, and usually that reaction was not one of harmony. Now, why is this important? It's important for a lot of reasons. It's important because with accountability, you can better love, understand, and respect self, your partner, and really the universe. Now, why do I say that? Well, accountability is key for growth. You see, without accountability, it's difficult to put yourself in a position where you even begin to review and understand why you do the things that you do. Whether they're things, most of the time they're things that were programmed into you. For instance, through relationship with family, with your family, parents, siblings. Sometimes it can be just a string of bad relationships. Sometimes it could be, having the wrong friend group. But a lot of times, a lot of these things are basically because they're experiences that you called in, because they're from aspects of self that are the shadow aspects of self that require attention, that require guidance, healing, love, acceptance, all of those amazing things on the spiritual journey. And you see, I think one of the big things with accountability is there was a saying, I love the saying, if you don't heal the wounds that one person created, you'll bleed all over everyone else. And what that means to me is if you're in relationship with someone, maybe there's somebody who's not good for you, and they do a lot of things that create a lot of harm in your space, whether that could be any relationship, familial, friendship, romantic. If you don't heal those things, then through the rest of your life, that wound is going to bleed out onto everyone else around you. It's going to create experiences for other people off of your experience. And what you're going to find eventually is that your experience becomes stale. It becomes one that you don't want to continue with, unless you want to sit wholly and completely in victim mode, which means that instead of taking power and understanding it and healing from it, you're just going to say, I just got bad luck. I have bad luck in relationships. I have bad luck in love. I have bad luck in work. I have bad luck in this. It's always bad luck. As if luck has anything to do with it. See, I had a friend once who would tell me about their job experience, and having been served in that function from a work and a career perspective, you start to understand these things differently. And they talked about all the bad bosses they had and all the jobs that they left, which were good jobs, but this boss was a jerk, that person was a jerk, I didn't want to put up with this, or I didn't put up with that. And never once recognized that maybe they were the problem. And so a lot of opportunities that could have been amazing opportunities for them, they didn't stay long enough because they didn't want to deal with the real issue, which was the self. They didn't want to take accountability that maybe, just maybe, they were projecting onto the experience something that wasn't part of the experience. They weren't willing to compartmentalize their situation from a work perspective. They wanted to personalize it. And because of that, it caused them a lot of career grief. And then later life, that career grief turns into, financial grief. And that financial grief eventually bleeds into relational grief. And then the grief continues on and on. You see, by simply taking accountability and saying, hey, this happened, maybe it wasn't fair for me, but maybe I need to understand why I shouldn't have taken this so personally, or why I shouldn't have internalized this and stepped away from the situation from an emotional perspective, dealt with the emotions, and then come back understanding them and being stronger in their being. They chose to let the emotion drive them. You see, this is a big thing in accountability that's important to understand. No one's immune from this. Most people will have emotional reactions in many situations. And a lot of times those triggers and emotional reactions have nothing to do with the person across from them. It has to do from something in their past, usually something from a trauma or a poor childhood experience that they haven't dealt with. And so any action that happens that is familiar to that and that associates with that, they suddenly they can't handle the situation. They get emotionally triggered, and then they spiral. And then what ends up happening is after the emotional trigger, they don't take accountability that it was them that allowed that trigger to occur because they hadn't healed it. You see, from a personal perspective, the former version of me really ran into this in life. I always tell people the former version of me was in therapy for all the trauma that we've talked about pretty extensively on this channel about being raped and molested for many, many years as a child. And, he would have a short fuse and he would get really angry really easily. So he went to therapy his whole life trying to learn to control the anger. But even in his lack of understanding, that internal wisdom came out for him, because I remember us asking the question, you're teaching me how to control my anger, but why am I angry all the time? You see, in all the talk therapy and the analytics, there was never a discussion about what was causing the anger until I met the therapist who, as we've talked about before, introduced me to a different modality, EMDR, and in that I was able to release the energetic trauma that I was carrying in my body, and then that person was gone. Hasn't returned. Now, can I still get angry? Now, of course, but it's in a different manner. It's in a different way, and it takes a heck of a lot more. I mean, it has to be a full-on attack for me to truly get angry. But the anger isn't anger of losing control. The anger is stop, enough. It's time to look in the mirror. You see, and that's part of the issue with accountability is unless you're willing to ask those deeper questions of self, you're never going to uncover the things that really create the issues you deal with. You're never going to be able to create a true, authentic relationship with self, with the universe, or with others until you're really able and really truly desire to go deep and go, why is this? Relationships are a great mirror. If you've been in a lot of relationships, on-off relationships, a lot of times it's you. And so if you really want to meet that person that you can build a life with, you got to start asking yourself the question, Why am I sabotaging the relationship? What is it that I'm doing that is creating this situation? And how do I heal it? How do I get to the core of it and not let it negatively affect my human experience? You see, there's all kinds of bypassing that happens in life, including spiritual bypassing. And what happens is people will find God and they'll say, "Oh, I trust God," and no, I'm happy alone, and they don't do the work, and so they bypass and say, "Well, I can control self, but I don't want a relationship." Or some people want a relationship, but they recognize they're not good in them. You see, all these are is techniques or mechanisms to protect the ego, to protect the self. You have to take the steps to go, no, I love myself and I don't require a relationship, but I desire one. So in order to desire one, in order to have that potential that maybe that's something that might be meant for me, I need to do the work. I need to really sit down with self, and sometimes with a therapist as well, and really dig into what are the triggers? What are these childhood memories that drive me to do the things that I do? And then when you're in a relationship, it's about being vulnerable. It's about authenticity. It's about communication. It's about going to that person with humility and saying, "Hey, I recognize that this wasn't my best self. And I am in a relationship with you and I want to build something with you, so I want to be my best version. And when I'm not, I want to let you know that I wasn't, and I want to understand why. And then I want to take the steps that I don't continue to do those things." That is healthy. That is healthy. And on the flip side, when you have gotten to that point and you set boundaries and you meet people who continue to cross your boundaries, and that's the test for you to see how much you've healed, grown, and how much you're willing to accept someone who continues to step over boundaries. You see, everybody on the planet, I wasn't emotionally mature until maybe 10 years ago. Regardless of age, a lot of people are not emotionally mature. They do not understand these things. They do not understand self. And it's important to be discerning about who those folks are. And when you meet them, trying to figure out, hey, can I work with this or not? Where are they on the journey compared to where I am on the journey? Am I willing to sign up and stay with somebody who may not grow? You see, I've met plenty of people who were emotionally immature, but they had a real desire to grow. They just had no understanding or direction on how to do it. Now, that is something you can work with. But somebody who can't take accountability for their life and the way it is and where they find themselves, and can't understand that the programming causes projection and they see anger in the reflection. If you can't take that kind of accountability, I would suggest that's something you need to think about. But what say you? How do you feel about that? How do you feel about accountability? Do you agree with the definition? Do you think the definition's different? How does it play out in your life? I'm curious. You see, as you become more, as you feel more whole and complete, you become more sovereign. And when you become more sovereign, you recognize that every situation that you invite into your life, you are accountable for having invited those things into your life. Even the poor relationships, you chose those things. You'll say, why do you say that? Because you see the red flags, and if it's not what you desire, then you should walk away early. The more discerning you are, the more you're telling the universe, hey, this is what I'm looking for. The more the universe will bring those things to your door. the more you heal. The same thing. As always, if you enjoy this content, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm truly grateful. Until I talk to you again, peace, love, light. Hope you have the most amazing day.